It's just weeks away, the trial in the terrifying murders of 4 college students in Idaho.
Ryan, what are you doing?
Now, startling new information, video never seen before.
There's evidence to show that his car left in such a hurry he almost hit somebody.
Yep, that's right.
Ominous selfies from the suspect's phone, images of women and serial killers.
Googling the words forced, passed out, drugged.
These are all themes of power, domination, and control.
It was very known that Bryan Kohberger had a problem with women.
I was like, he had my phone number. He had asked to hang out with me.
New details from inside the house.
Something is happening. Something happened to our house.
What will be revealed in court?
We came across a tip that would appear to be an alternate suspect.
Justice is coming. Families deserve that. It's time.
The evidence, the trial, the suspect, the heartbreak. Tonight, you're inside this case like never before. I'm Lester Holt, and this is Dateline. Here's Keith Morrison with The Terrible Night on King Road.
And now spring has come to Moscow, Idaho, and fresh life with it. Soon, another army of graduates will be released into the world. And not far from King Road, and the infamous student boarding house where 4 students were murdered in November of 2022, the school has built a memorial. With the trial of accused killer Bryan Kohberger now just 12 weeks away, it's the crime no one can forget.
What happens to these young people is a scene from a horror movie, and yet it was real.
Yes, about which we now know more. In the 2 years since our last report, we have learned things, heard and seen things that have never before been reported. We've gathered this information carefully and methodically from sources with direct knowledge of the evidence, sources we trust. What new information? Well, this, for example. Never before publicly seen security videos that show a white car circling the block that terrible night, pulling up to the house just before the murders occurred, and speeding away after. And these never before seen photos from Bryan Kohberger's phone. We've learned from our sources about a previously unreported brutality.
I think it's a clue there was a special anger toward that male.
And those same sources close to the investigation have told us which one of the 4 victims they believe was the intended target. 21-year-old Maddie Mogen.
What in the world would make anybody want to target Maddie of all people, the way you describe her?
She's so beautiful.
Maybe an ideal for someone who couldn't have that ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Angela Nevejas considered Maddie a member of her family. Her daughter Ashlyn was Maddie's best friend. The young women grew up together in Coeur d'Alene, about an hour and a half north of Moscow. Both attended the University of Idaho and were roommates in that big 6-bedroom house just a block from campus at 1122 King Road.
They had coffee together, they did yoga together, they walked to class together. So when the girls would get bored in Moscow, they would come and stay with us. And my husband is like, oh no, the sorority girls are coming this weekend, better watch out.
Those sorority girls included 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves and 20-year-old Xana Kernodle.
Hi, my name is Xana Kernodle.
Also among the roommates on King Road.
Where I've lived the past 2 years.
They were so fun and just beautiful and kind, super kind, rays of sunshine. But they were also motivated, so they made sure that academically their stuff was done during the week and they had fun on the weekends. And they all, would have graduated top in their class. They were very responsible kids.
Responsible, yes, but so much more.
Maddie was kind of like a little sister to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Katie Widmeyer was Maddie's boss at a clothing store in Coeur d'Alene. She knew all the roommates, invited them and their fellow sorority members to model and work at fashion-related events.
they really didn't come from extremely privileged backgrounds. They knew how to be someone was to get an education.
Katie quickly recognized Maddie's potential, offered her more hours, an offer Maddie turned down.
And I called her up and I was like, Maddie girl, why are you not taking more hours? And she said that she makes $2 more an hour at her serving job. And I was like, you know what? We would have paid you $25 an hour to stay here.
As the school year came to an end in the spring of 2022, Maddie, with one more year to go, was making plans for life and work after college, as was Kaylee, who had just a semester before graduation. Xana and her boyfriend, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, had a little more time to figure out things. She was a junior, he a freshman. And what none of them knew was that across the country, another student was making plans to continue his education. Brian Kohberger had grown up in the Pocono Mountains of eastern Pennsylvania, an awkward kid who'd struggled with his weight, with girls. He'd written that he once looked in the mirror and saw a sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man. But by 2022, he was 27, and Kohberger had both kicked a heroin addiction and lost more than 100 pounds.
If he loses this weight and he turns himself into literally another person.
This is Howard Bloom, award-winning investigative journalist and NBC News consultant. Bloom was on the ground in Idaho days after the murders and has written a book about the case, When the Night Comes Falling. He has studied Kohberger intently.
His body becomes a temple. He's eating vegan. He's working out. So he's created this other individual.
And this new Brian had also found his calling, criminology. He'd received his undergrad and master's degrees at DeSales University, near his home in Pennsylvania.
His master's teachers, one of them said he was one of the 2 best students she ever had in 10 years.
And by the summer of 2022, he'd been accepted into the PhD program at Washington State University in Pullman, just a 15-minute drive across the state line from that house on King Road in Moscow. What no one knew yet was that Brian Kohberger, while finishing his master's degree, had gone on Amazon.com, as these documents in the possession of law enforcement and obtained by Dateline show. And he'd purchased a K-Bar U.S. Marine Corps knife, a knife precisely like this one, nearly 8 months before the murders. Then on June 25, 2022, he used his phone to take this picture of his car, a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra, just as he pulled away from his family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, headed toward Washington State and the fates that awaited them all.
There is an element that's very cinematic about this whole story.
Cinematic, yet very raw and real. And reported here for the first time, the phone calls Kohberger made in the hours after the murders.
I would love to have heard that conversation.
The text message to a woman who met Kohberger at a party before the murders.
I probably would have never thought of this experience again.
And newly revealed photos of young women, photos Kohberger browsed on his phone.
He's clearly trolling and getting stimulated by looking at people who in his mind fuel the fantasy.
And with the trial just weeks away, how will his attorneys defend Brian Kohberger with the death penalty hanging over his head? How do you mount a defense to all that stuff?
Piece by piece. And if one card falls, then the house can fall.